welcome to the Marina Skua Podcast. My name's Marina and I'm recording in Bath, a city in southwest England where I live and work. This is a podcast about yarn and knitting and occasional bits of seasonal making with a bit of a frugal and kind of sustainability twist. So I'm a knitter, a dyer, a spinner, and also a tech editor of knitting patterns. And if you've seen the podcast before, thank you very much for coming back. And if you're new, welcome, and I really hope you enjoy it. Today I'm going to be talking about some new things I've got in the shop, a few things I've finished knitting. So I did quite a bit of knitting over the break for Christmas and New Year, and also the things I'm working on now. And I'm going to be preparing some lichen dye, which is not going to be finished today because it'll have to steep for a while, but I think that's going to be really interesting. So first up, new things in the online shop. So I've been doing a bit of spinning. I don't spin as much these days as I used to, but I really enjoy it and I do want to do more. It's just often finding the time to do it. But so first up, I've got these skeins. I've got 4 of these skeins. They're 50 grams. So I've started doing slightly smaller skeins for some things where I would usually do 100 grams I'd usually do a 100 gram skein. I'm doing 50 gram skeins because I feel like it makes it slightly more accessible for people, because obviously hand spun yarn with the work that goes into it is expensive, like it needs to be for it to be worthwhile. 50 gram skein means that it's easier to buy one skein and then find a smaller project to use it with, and you can pair it with sort of less special yarn, so you can make a slightly bigger project. So you can see it's really difficult to convey the colour. This is like a lovely, this is a really nice sort of golden sunny yellow. And the yellow is soy and blue face Leicester, and then it's spun with just plain dyed blue face Leicester. And I really like these transitions where you get a bit of barber poling like that. And so these are really fun. So I've got 4 skeins of that. It's called sun soaked because it looks like I've had it on my desk by the window, and just when the evening light catches it, it's just beautiful, and it kind of looks like some of that sunlight has been imbued into it, which I really enjoy. I've got quite a lot of sunny colours at the moment actually. So next up, I talked about this one in the last episode, which actually feels like ages ago, even though it was only a month. This one is henna dyed fleece, so it's completely naturally dyed with an alum and cream of tartar mordant. I washed the fleece first and then I dyed it. It's Shetland Teeswater fleece. So you've got some of these, like I've left the lock structure intact. And so it's like crazy chunky and it's got bags of texture, which is just loads of fun. And again, when this one catches the light, it actually reminds me a lot of the Bath stone. So the sandstone that Bath is built of and famous for is this lovely sort of golden colour, and it reminds me of that. So this one's about, I think it's just over 80 grams. So these ones are available on the online shop on marinaskua.com. And then these ones I'm very excited about because I talked in the last episode about how I'm doing a little bit more plant dyeing and natural dyeing. And so this, I dyed 6 skeins of this total. So I can't actually remember if I mentioned that I was saving up tea bags. which just sounds like an insane thing to do. I have a big old Tupperware in my freezer. When we make a cup of tea, instead of chucking the tea bag away, it goes in the Tupperware in the freezer. Because, you know, to actually collect enough to make it worth dying with, like if you save them without freezing them, then they will just go mouldy and disgusting. So they just go straight in the freezer. And then when I've got enough, I just tip the gigantic tea bag iceberg into the dye pot. And so this is my first time like actually thinking about this strategically to make sure that I have enough for a good colour. And I just love this kind of tan orange. Oh no, it's not coming across as well there. Yeah, that's fairly accurate. And it's just the most gorgeous colour, and it's sort of, one thing I really love about natural dyes is that they react very differently to different light conditions, which is also something I noticed when I used to work in interiors. So selling paint, so more expensive paint that uses natural pigments was always much more interesting and also harder to gauge. So we would often advise people, like when choosing colours, to take them out into the natural light because it looks so different. And I find that with natural dyes against synthetic dyes, where you just get a lot more nuanced colour, which I really enjoy. So these ones are also on the shop. I'm working out what to do with them because this is my standard Mendip base, which I do also have in, like the main range is in synthetic colours, but I am introducing sort of these, I'm going to do it quite sporadically and gently to start with, introducing occasional natural dyed colours. And I just need to work out how that's going to suit people best on the online shop, just to format it in a way that's really clear for everyone. But yeah, so those are some of the new things I've got, and now I'm going to show you some of my finished objects and the things I'm knitting at the moment. So, knitting, been doing loads of it. First up, obviously, is this one, which is my rhombeal. And if you've seen previous episodes, you will have seen this one in progress quite a lot. I absolutely love it. Like, I think I was expecting the fit not to be super flattering because of the sort of dolman sleeve style and stuff, but it actually came out really nicely. Like I would have been fine with it being a bit more baggy, but it actually fits me really well, which I'm quite pleased with, because a lot of the jumpers I have are mostly men's ones, also enormous and quite baggy, and so it's nice to be able to add hand knits to my wardrobe that actually look nice on me, rather than just being enormous and comfy. But this one is obviously also super comfy. So you'll see full details in the show notes. It's 2 of my hand-dyed yarns held together, which gives this lovely sort of flecky, tweedy effect, which I really, really enjoy. And the colour looks different every time. I've got some photos of it that I took in the sunlight outside, and it looks really, really orange, and then other times it just kind of looks brown. Sometimes it looks really quite sort of almost pinky. But yeah, I love colour. I love the way light plays with colour. I just find it really interesting, and I like colours that are sort of a bit shifty like that. So yes, I've been wearing it fairly incessantly. Next up are these ones. So these are convertible mittens I made for my husband out of hand spun. I didn't dye the fibre. It's fibre I got in a previous fibre share swap. So the wool is British Cheviot, which is quite warm and fuzzy and very, very springy. and I've stolen these from Ben today. He has my mittens to wear, and I'm just hoping they fit his hands because his are bigger than mine. But yeah, they were loads of fun to make, just because all of the way all the colours play together, and I'd never done anything with fingers before, and so that was enjoyable. The pattern is Holding Hands by Claire Walls, who is Flossy Knits on, I think, Ravelry and Instagram. The design was for the Making Stories and Friends Winter 2018 collection. I think that's what it's called. I tech edited it, so I just knew it as the December collection, which was the working title. But yes, it's a really, really lovely pattern. It has options for just like plain full mittens without the flap, and options without a flap that are just like fingerless gloves. But it's really nicely done. The pattern's super clear. I, as I often do with patterns, didn't knit to gauge because I'm awful like that. I always want to use the wrong yarn. And so I just did some maths to work out the numbers to make it all work correctly. There is a tiny hole between those fingers there, which I'm going to have to stitch up. That's just where I was picking up stitches and I clearly missed one. But yeah, I'm really pleased with those. And so after I did these, like these used, I don't actually know exactly how much yarn they used, but I had a decent amount left over from 100 grams. And so next I made this one, which is an Aspis hat. So it's my pattern that I designed, and it's just really, really lovely in these, like it's just a very sort of subtle gradient there. I love these colours. I like how kind of moody they are. So this one's going to be a gift for my brother. And this other one, which I did in the same grey base yarn, but then also some hand-dyed red yarn that I dyed quite a while ago. He gets a bobble because he's more likely to wear a hat with a bobble. And I added some sort of contrast sort of stripes there, just because I very almost ran out of the grey yarn, but I think that works really nicely, and you don't really see it much because of the gigantic bobble, which is really entertaining. So yes, I suspect this one will be worn for skiing. So both of these, as well as the one I made for myself originally, are the size 2 of the pattern, which is effectively a medium. So there are 3 sizes. So like a medium should fit like most normal head sizes. I'd go for a large if you have a massive head or if you want a more slouchy fit. And then a small would work for like teens and large children, or just, you know, people with small heads. But yes, I'd say like medium of those is usually a good way to go. And so yeah, they're lots of fun. I like it. It's very, very tempting now because they don't take up much yarn of the contrast colour. Like it's about, depending on the yarn you use, it can be like 10 to 20 grams of the contrast colour. So, and then about 50 grams of the main colour. And obviously it depends on the yarn. Like these are using Aran weight yarn. You can make a slightly sort of denser version with a heavier yarn, or a slightly looser version with a lighter yarn. I like playing with gauge and different fabrics and things. But yes, so they use up very little. So the colour work is excellent for using up scraps of yarn that you might have from other projects, because I'm always keen to find ways to do that. Then we've got works in progress. So I'll do this one first. You will have seen this before if you have been watching the podcast. It has finally returned. I cocked up the sleeves like multiple times. I think I've had to do them 3 times. Yeah, it's not fun. Ripped them back twice. We now have sleeves. I'm fairly pleased with them. They look enormously long, but that's because like I have really long arms. I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out. Like, they're good. Obviously, this yarn, like I'm working straight from a cone for the white yarn, so it is going to block out quite a lot. But yeah, so I've done the sleeves first because of various yarn adventures, and it's just a way of making sure that I have enough of the green to do the body. I've now finished the sleeves and I'm working on the body. So I'm going to work a few more rows in the green as I've done at the top of the sleeves here, and then do the zigzags and switch to the white, and then I'll do colour work again at the bottom, so around the waist and hips. I'm probably going to add some waist and hip shaping, which is something I wouldn't usually do, but because, as I said, like I have a lot of bulky jumpers that I can kind of swim around in, it would be nice to have some more fitted ones. So this is exciting, and like the current format it's in, I just find really entertaining. It reminds me of people in the UK might remember this. A few years ago there was a cup of soup advert. Cup of soup is terrible, don't drink it, like it's not tasty. But they had an excellent advert which had like a monster which was blue, I think it was blue and fluffy, or maybe it was purple, and it was literally just a big fluffy thing that was arms, and it just ran along on its arms and then jumped on people and gave them a massive hug, and I really like that idea. And so it's just like a hug at the moment. Eventually it'll get a body and then I'll be able to wear it. I'm hoping to finish it for Edinburgh, because I'm going to Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year for the first time ever, which is very exciting. I got my flights yesterday. I don't actually have tickets to the marketplace, so I'm going to have to queue out in the cold for quite a long time. But that'll be fine. I'll hopefully meet lots of nice knitters. I've already got a few people who I'm really, really excited to meet, who I've been talking to on like Instagram, and like various people I've been working with who I haven't actually met in person yet, so it's going to be really exciting. So give me a shout in the comments if you're going to go, and it would be really lovely to say hi, like if we run into each other. So yeah, that one now has a deadline, which means that it should get finished soonish. And the fact that I finished the sleeves and it's effectively out of the naughty corner means that I should make good progress on it. And it alternates quite nicely because it's a chunky one with this, which I was just in the planning stages in the last episode. Oh, all of yarns run away. So this is a shawl I'm making with my Kaya baby alpaca yarn. So it's hand dyed by me. The alpaca is sourced from a local farm that is about 20 miles from where I live, 20 miles drive. And so, like, I really like how the way the colours come out sort of make it look like dinosaur skin from kids' models. I find that really entertaining. So it's just like, so from the bottom there, it starts at this point, it just gets wider and wider, and I'm beginning to do an interesting thing here. I'm designing this. I'm designing it to be fairly straightforward, mindless knitting, like you literally work in ribbing and do increases sometimes. So there's going, like the middle section is going to be more interesting, and then like it's basically, I'm designing it so that it's a good project to have going on in the background that's not completely boring. Like it's a shawl, you don't have to pay much attention to it, it's really good TV knitting. It's going to have some interesting bits going on. I think the shape is going to be really, really nice. And yeah, so I'm enjoying it. The fabric is beautifully drapey, so I've given this like an interim steam block. So it's just so because I'm knitting it at a sort of loose gauge. I don't know if you can see that it's like, yeah, it's a bit loose. But it means that when you block it a little bit, the fabric stretches out. So it's just to make sure that I'm getting an accurate view of how long it's going to be. So I like a large shawl. I don't like ones that sort of stop around here and they keep trying to unwrap themselves. I like to be able to properly sort of swaddle up in it. So yeah, so I'm not quite halfway there. And I'm excited to see how this one carries on, and I just really like these colour variations. So I'm on my second skein, because again these are 50 gram skeins of yarn. I'm part way through the second skein. So then there will be, I think it's going to end up being a 3, possibly 4 skein project depending. And I'm hoping to have the pattern ready for Wonderwool in Wales in April, where I will be exhibiting, which is really exciting because I've been to Wonderwool for the last couple of years, and it's going to be very exciting having a booth of my own. And I've always met lots of lovely people there. So again, if you're coming to Wonderwool, definitely come and say hi. I'd love to see you and chat and show you my yarn. One thing I wanted to talk about is a conversation I've had quite a lot recently with various people from my knitting group to people on Instagram who I've been chatting with, beginner knitters who are sort of discouraged. So I am a fairly experienced knitter. I'm not at all perfect. I make mistakes all the time. There's still a lot of things I find challenging and that I'm working towards, but I'm not generally daunted by things because I've just been knitting for ages, and I kind of thought I'd do a weird little spin on the 10-year challenge, because I've realised that it's actually 10 years since I started knitting again in university. So I learnt to knit when I was tiny. Both of my grandmas taught me because I forgot how in between. So one grandma taught me, I did like probably a few rows on something and then I forgot. And then the second grandma taught me in Argentina when we were over there visiting, and I made her a hilarious, terrible little scarf. It was probably like this long, and it was all made of scrap yarn that various family members had given me because they knew I was knitting, and so just gave me some scraps. And so, it had Aran weight, it had probably lace weight, it had like no consistency in texture or anything. And I made this thing, I put some little tassels on it. I was like 12, I had zero taste and zero idea what I was doing. Made it for my grandma, gave it to her. She was very gracious about it. And proceeded to wear it for the next few years every single Sunday as a tie, which is lovely. I don't think that exists anymore. I'm not sure what happened to it, but however, I do have a few projects from when I started knitting again in university 10 years ago. And so when people ask me, like, how do you get past the stage where you're a really slow knitter, you make mistakes all the time, you have to concentrate really hard just to work out what to do. And I get, like, I'm not a very patient person. I'm definitely a kind of like, if I'm not good at something straight off, or like good enough that I can be encouraged to continue, like I will just say, I'm rubbish at this, I hate it, I'm not gonna do it anymore. With knitting, like most of my thing was to just plow through the mistakes and not really care that much about them. I started off with quite large needles and bigger yarn, and as the two things I'm going to show you will prove, I had zero idea of gauge or correct yarn and needle pairing or anything. So number one project, which was the first thing I ever did that had any kind of increases or decreases or anything other than just knits and purls. This is a hat. it's made from acrylic yarn. It's, you know, that's what I could afford at the time, and I'm grateful for that, because even though I wouldn't use this yarn at all now, it, you know, being able to get cheap yarn meant that I could learn and make mistakes and not be too concerned about it. So like, while this kind of looks fine, like it's ridiculously slouchy, it wasn't originally this slouchy, but acrylic yarn, if you wash it with heat, goes floppy. It does, heat kills it. So like, I'm just going to show you some of the stuff here. So like ribbing, this sort of looks fine, right? If we get further round, what's going on here? Oh no, wait. Oh, what is this? So like, I apparently didn't notice that my ribbing was for this section seed stitch. Like, I didn't notice that when I was doing it. I don't know how. We've also got some like terrible seaming here, because I didn't really, like, I thought I knew what mattress stitch was, but I was just doing it very, very wrong. And so, you know, lots of mistakes, terrible hat. However, I did wear it for ages, and like, I still wear it around the house now, for when my hair gets a bit longer and these floppy bits try to stab me in the eyes. I use it to keep my hair back, and it's nice and loose, and it's just super comfy. So that is something I still get some wear out of, even though like it is a bit rubbish. And I feel like a lot of people, probably quite rightly, would have thought, what the hell's going on here? I'm going to rip back and start again. Like, I am very much into the whole like sunk cost fallacy. So it's like, no, I've put some time into this. I'm not going to rip it back and start again. What a massive waste of time that would be. I've almost got a hat here. And so I just go with the hat, even though it had mistakes. I am now very much pro ripping things back if they're not working, and doing it properly, as my yoked jumper proves. You know, I've done the sleeves 3 times now, and I'm fine with that, because I'm looking for a level of professionalism in what I'm making. But to start with, that just wasn't, I just wanted to make things and get them done. And so this one was my first ever garment. It kind of, I'm gonna angle around a little bit just because we've got some sun coming in. So I think this was a DK weight yarn. I think I knit it on 6mm needles, and it's acrylic yarn that has been through the washing machine many times. So we've got this. As you can see, it's completely see-through. That's not meant to be like a big old drop neck. I think this is just meant to be a fairly standard, sensible V-neck. Like, look at our sleeves here. Like, it is meant to be dropped sleeve, but that sleeve is definitely wider than the hole it's going into. And let's find a seam here. I definitely didn't know how to do increases without making holes. Like, this is all like really slightly embarrassing as someone who does knitting to make a living now. But you know, just like, what is this? And most people's early projects, so when they're learning to knit, are not anywhere near as terrible as this. Like, what is going on there? What? I'm actually going to put this on for you just so you can see the levels of comedy involved. So this is just kind of to encourage people and say, like, yeah, I'm a much better knitter now, but I didn't used to be in any way. Like, what is this? This one doesn't get much wear these days because it literally serves no purpose as a garment. Okay, so here we go. We've got a V that goes down to like below my bra line. Originally it wasn't this enormous, it has sagged a lot because of the combination of like acrylic yarn and ridiculously loose gauge. I think I just thought that would mean it would knit quicker, but like my fingers stop here. And like, there's really like, what is this going on here? And like all the holes where I've picked up stitches around there. I mean, that kind of looks sort of acceptable. Oh no, something's going wrong there. I definitely didn't know how to pick up stitches properly either, and so I was like shoving the needle through the stitches, and it was all just quite unpleasant, and so I didn't pick up stitches for years and years. Like, there's a running trend here of me assuming I know how to do a method and just proceeding with it, even though it doesn't make any sense. And usually I'm quite a fan of looking stuff up, but if it feels like I already know what I'm doing, I'm not going to look it up. And so like I didn't learn to do mattress stitch properly for years and years and years, and I eventually looked it up. It's like, right, I've just not been doing that correctly. No wonder my seams look a bit rubbish. But yeah, I hope this has been sort of entertaining and encouraging, because I just find it thoroughly amusing. And yeah, so most people's early projects aren't anywhere near as terrible as these ones. It's the same with spinning. When I see people saying like, oh, this is my first skein of hand spun yarn, it's like, that is like better than the yarn I'm making now. Like, well done you, because my first yarn was atrocious. And so yeah, it's like, if you stick with it, it'll get easier, you'll get better. And yeah, and the main thing for me was getting to the stage where I could actually recognise sort of knit and purl stitches and read my knitting. And once you get to that stage, you need to concentrate a lot less, because if you go wrong somewhere, you can easily identify where it's gone wrong, rather than having to like work back and, you know, say, okay, so this is a knit stitch and the next one is a purl stitch. And then if you put it down and you didn't write down whether you finished on a knit or a purl stitch, you think, what do I do next? But yeah, so just working to the stage where you can recognise things and can read your knitting and know what you've been doing makes it so much easier. Like, I tell people that I'm a capable knitter, but I'm not a good knitter. Like, I can do a lot of things, but my technique is generally a bit awful. I'm very good at fixing mistakes and picking up dropped stitches and reworking miscrossed cables and stuff, just because I do that stuff all the time and I don't concentrate when I knit. And so I'm good at kind of bodging it. And so yeah, if you're struggling with your knitting and you want to get good at it and it feels like it's not happening, stick with it. Eventually you'll get much better and you'll look back and laugh, and it'll be very entertaining for everyone involved. Okay, so first up, a disclaimer that I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I've done a little bit of reading about preparing lichen dye. That doesn't mean that this is actually going to work. It's a bit of an experiment. So I collected this lichen. It's all wind fallen, so stuff that had just fallen off the trees, because I don't want to go scraping it off trees because it takes ages to grow. Gathered it on a walk. Some bits are awesome, like that bit. It's just massive and incredible. I've broadly, I think there are more than 2 types of lichen here, just from the look of them. I'm not good at identifying lichens. Like, I think this might be a different kind to this. But because I don't have huge quantities here, I'm just kind of putting ones together that are sort of similar in shape. So here we've got ones that are sort of broader and flatter and a bit more leafy, and then these ones are a bit finer and more spindly and kind of branchy. And there are definitely proper words for those things, but I don't remember them. So yeah, I don't have like actual identification on these because like a lot of lichens look very similar, and you know, the same kind of lichen can look different if, you know, it's growing on a rock or on a tree. So there are many factors that mean this is unlikely to work. But I'm going to try turning them into dye. You can boil them with water, which is a more sort of standard way of preparing dye from plants. But there's also a way of preparing them, which is what I'm going to try doing, which is by steeping them in a mixture of water and ammonia, which can apparently reveal really amazing bright shades, like sometimes amazing magentas and purples. I think I'd be fairly astounded if I got any kind of colour like that, but we're going to give it a go. And then, yeah, we'll see how it works out. So I've got a couple of old containers here. This one was a previous dye container, and apparently I need to bruise the lichen. Which I'm taking to mean just crush it with my fingers. And this is going to make a load of mess, and I'll hopefully be able to scrape together all the bits that I've lost. And so these, when I gathered them, it had been raining, so everything was very soggy. So I gathered them up in a little plastic bag, and then spread them out on brown paper. I think it was some leftover Christmas wrapping, to dry out, so that when I had them just being stored, they wouldn't go mouldy or just, you know, rot down. And that means that they're really dry and crispy, so they're crumbling quite nicely in here. And you know, if on looking at these you have any idea of the kind of lichen they might be, especially if you're sort of from the area. So these were gathered in Wiltshire in Savernake Forest. If you're from around there and you happen to be a lichen expert, do let me know if you have any thoughts on what kind of lichen they might be, because I really don't like not having an identification on them. Because like there are quite a few types of lichen that give colour, but there are also lots that don't, and these could easily be the kind that don't. But you know, it's worth giving a go, because if it does happen to work, it'll be lots of fun, and if it doesn't, then I will have learned something. Right, so I've got water here, and apparently we want to be sort of making a kind of paste. I'll just add a bit of water. Well, I wouldn't describe it as a paste. I've just splashed that. I've probably not done a sufficient job of the crushing it up, but hopefully, like there is a lot of, you're not going to be able to see in there, but there is a lot of the more powdery bits of lichen suspended in the water, so hopefully that's a good sign. Right, I'm going to say that's sufficient bruising there. And then this is my water and ammonia mix. It is 1 part ammonia to 2 parts water. And apparently I need to add it gradually, so I'm just going to add it in the same kind of increments I would do for like making pancake batter or something. Oh, good Lord. These ones really want to get caught on my sleeve. I don't know if you can see in there. It's a little bit gross. It's kind of excellent. I mean, the colour coming off it looks like, you know, plant water. It's sort of greeny brown. But we'll see. You have to be quite careful to try not to splash it now. I can be quite splashy. Okay, so I've not quite filled that to the top, and then I will put the lid on it and put it in my dye cupboard, and every so often I'll need to shake it and well, open it up to allow the oxygen in, because apparently it reacting with the air is part of the process. So yeah, that's the first one there. Get that sealed up nice and tight. And then the second one here. It's been so tempting every time I've done anything with this lichen to just crunch it, because it's so sort of crispy now. coffee. Don't know if you can see there. It's got all bubbles in it. Possibly have done with a bigger jar for this one. One's got a lot of bubbles, so I'm actually going to leave those and hopefully those will break down, and then I will close that up and give it a shake and put it in the cupboard, and then we'll see how it does. I'm intrigued. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about the stuff I've been up to after what feels like a very long time. A month always seems to both fly by and take ages in between podcast episodes, but it means that I always have a lot to talk about, and so I hope it's all been interesting. If you have any questions or anything, or just want to say particular bits that you enjoyed, you can leave a comment below, or you can email me. You can check out my website, which is www.marinaskua.com. You can email me, don't remember if I just said that, and you can get me on Instagram. You can send me a message, and that's a nice way to keep up with what I'm doing day to day. I often have updates on my latest projects on there, and it's a really nice way to connect to people. So yes, until next time, I will leave you with some footage from the Southsea seafront, because I don't just spend the whole time in the countryside. So yeah, a bit of an urban seafront for you. And until next time, bye.